Well, howdy, folks. How are you this fine day? Here we are, still in Canberra. No, this isn't a Canberra bomber. This is a Hudson. This particular one arrived in Australia in 1941. Did most of its work in Papua New Guinea, but Australia had a bit under 250 of these delivered during the Second World War. And they performed a transport and reconnaissance role as well as a bombing role. And I don't know if you can see, zoom in under there, that's the bomb bay down under there. These were modified airliners, passenger aircraft back in the day. And right now, this one is on display at the Canberra airport, which is quite spectacular, if I say so myself. So I guess you probably gleaned, if I'm at Canberra airport, I might be headed home. I am headed home. I'm headed home under very sad circumstances, which I'll bring you up to date with at another time. But life can be a trial. And it seems the good Lord wants to send a trial not only to some of us, but maybe returning that trial to those that would have it done to us. So there is positiveness in everything that happens. Even if you're a little confused at times when I speak in riddles. Sometimes people should understand I'm not necessarily speaking to them, but the ones who understand them are the ones I'm speaking to. So yes, let's go and cover yesterday. Well, yesterday was a truly magnificent day for the people of Australia. We, the people, voted to indict 268 people listed in the grand jury indictment. There was a crowd, a good crowd, a couple of hundred people. That's what we were looking for. Couldn't have held too many more in the courtyard at the Senate anyway, or the Senate courtyard, I've got to get the words right. It was a spectacular event. It's been received around the world today very positively. There have been a huge amount of support emails and comments and other things that have been sent through to us, where we feel very confident that going forward, Australians have a tremendous chance at regaining some justice in our country, because that is what we appear to be missing most. We are fighting the foreign belligerent occupiers, the corporation that runs this country, and that evidence brief yesterday lays it all out very clearly. Now, I have seen some comments from trolls, yawn. It's terribly sad that the trolls, and I do feel sorry for them, they're just not smart enough to comprehend what we're talking about here. Some of these people I don't think understand or could comprehend grade 6 English. I will admit, when we talk about what we've been talking about over the last couple of days in the grand jury indictment, I will admit it is detailed. Detailed. It isn't hard to understand, it is just detailed. And trolls seem to have a problem with detail because, well, let's face it, if they didn't have a problem with detail, they'd be doing their own research, wouldn't they? I'm going to take a seat. If they're taking their own advice, the trolls should open their eyes a little, stop being dickheads, and try and view the evidence objectively. That's all we ever ask. Nobody's forcing you to believe anything. What we have provided with the dossier of evidence, the brief evidence for the grand jury indictments, is evidence. Now, if you're a troll and you feel you can refute that evidence in some way, then have the balls at least to use your name and email me. I'll have you on. We'll talk about it. If you can point out the flaws in what's going on, I would love to hear it. But because trolls don't do research, they have opinion and ego. That's about it. They believe they've learnt everything there is to need to know already, and anything they've forgotten didn't need to be known in the first place. And unfortunately, you're wrong. So, if you are thinking about trolling and you find it too difficult to apply a little bit of objectivity to your observations, to your learnings, then I think you will see that the brief of evidence stacks up, can hold a lot of water, and certainly provides what is the ultimate objective of the grand jury indictment process. It is there to provide enough evidence to show that something isn't right, and it needs to be investigated a lot more deeply. And yes, there are other actions that can be taken, but we would hope that those good people in the judiciary, those good people in the police, those good people in the military will look at this brief of evidence, will test it themselves, and if they find holes in it, I'm sure nothing will happen. But if they can't find holes in the brief of evidence, there must be a time shortly where those good men and women of our defence forces and police forces around this country stand up and work for the people again. Stand up and arrest those that would have this evil done to us, instead of sitting back and carrying out orders even if you don't agree with them. Because I was just carrying out orders is not an excuse that will save you. So trolls, I'm sorry for you, I really am. You have clearly been so brainwashed, or you just don't have the intelligence. And I'm not having a go at you about that. There are many people this will be well beyond, okay? Many people that it will be well beyond. I appreciate that. That's why we need as many of you people that can comprehend it to hold the hands of those who can't. We need you to educate them. And that brief of evidence is a great educational tool. Leave it on your kitchen table. Leave it on your coffee table. Take it to a girls' tea meeting or a boys' beer meeting or whatever it turns out to be. And say, I was reading this thing the other day about the Great Seal. Did you know that? And see where it leads. The evidence is there. If it can be refuted, please get a hold of me, Carl, at vofhq.com. I would love to have you on to refute the evidence. I really would. But I don't think any of you are smart enough to do it. Or I don't think any of you are dedicated enough to do it. If you were, the likes of Cookawatch would have already done this sort of shit. Now, she is an intelligent lady, don't get me wrong. But she's intelligent enough to know not to walk into an argument you're never going to win. And you could wind up being dreadfully embarrassed in. So, trolls beware is all I'll say. Trolls beware. I've also had some communication about the White Rabbit and what I said about the White Rabbit leading up to the event in Canberra yesterday. The White Rabbit was given some information that indicated the military might be joining us for an insurrection chat. Now, I know where she got that information from, and I tried to warn her that telling people stories like the military are coming to your parade isn't helping our movement. That she needs to check those sorts of statements and thoughts. And admittedly, she didn't say this in any show, it was privately said. However, privately said to people who work in this particular freedom movement means you tell one, you tell us all, particularly if it's something like that. And I pointed out to her that the military were never going to be turning up, and if they did, I would owe her a huge apology. Well, there wasn't one military person in sight all day yesterday. And all I would say now, because I don't think the White Rabbit is talking to me, but I know a lot of you watch her and send her messages, so please pass on from me. I never intended to upset her. What I was trying to do was to point out that she was being used. And she has been used by the person that gave her that information about the military, knowing full well she would spread it to people going to the march and create a little bit of angst in their ranks. It didn't create any angst in the ranks, I can tell you. I laughed uproariously when I heard what she'd said, for a variety of reasons. It's clear that she doesn't actually understand how the military would operate if there were an insurrection. So I was trying to warn her that saying things that politicians tell you is very, very dangerous, because politicians are slimy fuckers who will tell you what they think you need to know to best help them. And whether you know you're doing it or not doesn't really matter. And I would say Mr. Rennick has something to answer for in that regard. Mr. Rennick, Senator Rennick, was invited to speak yesterday. Of course, there's not likely he was going to turn up to his own insurrection grand jury, I'll admit. But had he have turned up, he had potential to take a great many votes out of the freedom movement with him. But he was too gutless. He's missed an opportunity, a very big opportunity. And by spreading the false lie that the military are coming to the parade or to the event, he has let Nicola do the dirty work for him. The White Rabbit was used. I just don't think she knows it, which is a bit sad. And if my previous communications to her have upset her in any way, that wasn't my intention. My intention is simply to point out we have a responsibility for the truth in what we do here. If you're standing in front of your phone talking to people like you have a responsibility, I believe, to tell the truth, or the truth as you know it. Now, if you just believe other people's truths and you tell them, that's not really going to cut the mustard. You need to research their truth before you start telling it or mentioning it privately, because, as we've seen, a little bit of untruth can do a great deal of damage. And I believe the White Rabbit does a great deal of good for our community. However, now that she's working for Gerard Rennick, I see that potentially being less significant role in our movement anyway, because she'll be parroting what Rennick tells her. Rennick was good enough to tell her that the military were coming. So, I don't know. I hope she learns from this. I don't care if she never talks to me again, but I just hope she can play the game. Sorry for the Qantas tooker above me. She's very excitable. Normally you don't hear too many out of the airport that, like to go off and prattle too much. That one likes the sound of her voice on the microphone by the sound of it. Good on her. Yeah, so to the White Rabbit, I'm sorry you were taken for a ride. And I'm sorry you took my warnings as a bit, well, for not what they were. And I probably didn't write them the right way, a mea culpa on me. I did say to her that I'm very happy to help her in the future if she wants it, but I don't know that she'll be reaching out for my help in the future, but I hope she can find someone who will help her correctly. That's all I can hope, because I do believe she's a force in our movement, could be very helpful. But I don't know that taking a job with Rennick is going to really help. So we all have financial concerns. Don't get me started on financial concerns and financial pressures. But she might have a house she has to pay off. I don't. So, I don't know. No point in wondering about the reasons. We just watch the results. And I hope her results improve. Fingers crossed. All right, folks. I think it's Sunday today, isn't it? I'm a bit day stressed. So, the last 24 hours have been had some of the highest highs of my life and some of the lowest lows. And the low is going to keep going this afternoon. So I won't be doing a show tonight. I will be back tomorrow at some stage. We will talk about what's happened since the grand jury indictment. We're going to talk about community. We're going to talk about what it is to be in a community. We're going to talk about friendship, respect and love. Because if you can't have that in your community, you can't have a community. Something that I'm feeling very close to at the moment. Talk to you soon, my good friends. You stay careful on the roads, and I'll make sure there's no dickheads flying the plane. How's that sound? See you later.